Good day, everybody. I have to start off by saying that the tale of the Witch of Izalith and her daughters is easily my favorite from Dark Souls. Much like Nito, Izalith, as far as I will call her from here on out, obtained one of the Lord's souls, but not the most powerful. Just to be clear on her name, we don't know it. She's called the Witch of Izalith, not the witch named Izalith, and Izalith is clearly a place that we can visit in the game, and not a person. My theory is that the soul she obtained was the soul of Izalith, a Fire Lord of some sort, or Fire Demon of some sort. If you don't know what I mean by that, please watch my first and third installment in which I discuss how the soul obtained by the Pygmy is that of the Dark Lord, and the Old One. In a future addendum video I am going to go further into detail about souls, which I should have done already in my third entry. Whoops. Let's get back on track. Also, like Nito, Izalith is angry that Gwyn has the most powerful soul, but the first goal is that of defeating the dragons, so there is a truce and then lots of dragon killing. Now, we already know from the Izalith Catalyst description that Izalith and her daughters were sorcerers, or witches I suppose, casting magic of a fire nature primarily. That last part we know because of the visuals and dialogue in the intro movie, and how pyromancy was not created until after the dragons were slain. So, what is this Izalith, the place? I believe it to be the area in which the dead were originally reanimated and found the souls that made them lords. We know it's deep underground, and that there is plenty of fire, according to the intro movie. It cannot be where people lived before obtaining souls, because humans inhabit the world above the archtrees. They could not go below until after death to hang around the flames, due to the killing fog of the dragon's world. I don't have much to support my theory outside of this, except that it would be exactly the kind of place a flame witch would want to retreat after the dragons were gone. I'll explain why in the next video, I promise. Now, what became of the Izalith family? There's one mother, 7 daughters, and apparently a son to account for. We are unsure if there are more children than this, or a father for that matter, but 8 kids is enough for one power-hungry woman, don't you think? As for Izalith herself, she is infused with the Bed of Chaos. I wouldn't have had any thoughts on this going by items until confronting the boss itself. The part tree, part monstrosity is given a life bar and the name Bed of Chaos, and even upon true defeat we find that a caterpillar creature is the true bed. However, as we kill the boss, a large humanoid figure emerges. This figure has a female generality to her and is enraged with fire. We know from the Demon Catalyst description that the witch was engulfed by chaos, and while that could be taken as meaning emotionally engulfed, I believe, like most, that it is to be taken literally. I have yet to explain what the bed actually is, and I will eventually, but it overtook her in terms of power and they became one creature, the same lame boss. Actually, I basically said what the Bed of Chaos is. I described in an earlier video that it's the source of all the demons in the game, but why it was created, that will have to wait till another video. On to the daughters, all 7 of them. Unlike some, I believe all 7 daughters are accounted for and interacted with in the game. That's right. The obvious 4 are Quilag, the boss before the second bell, her sister Quilan, who resides over the Chaos Covenant, though not necessarily by choice, Quilana, the witch waiting in Blighttown in the hopes of the player killing her mother, and then lastly the devotee who attempts to stop us outside of the Bed of Chaos fog. I've read that some believe this 4th daughter to also be Quilana, but you can kill her and then the bed and return to Quilana to complete her quest, so no, it's not her. For the record, I also understand that we don't know Quilan's name, that she is merely the fair lady, but tough, I like the name. The less obvious 3 daughters are as follows. Ceaseless Discharge, and the 2 pillars you have to break to kill the bedbug. Whoa now, I know. There's an argument to be had here about Ceaseless, and what the hell am I talking about with the pillars? First, let me explain the last sibling we know of, the brother. It's not exactly clear that the daughters had a brother, but if you look at the orange charred ring description, since his sores were inflamed by lava from birth, his witch sisters gave him this special ring. But fool that he is, he readily dropped it, and from that spot, a terrible centipede demon was born. What I am about to say may sound cruel, but it is a common occurrence in breeding, especially in humans. The more children that a woman has, the more debilities and handicaps, or at least a greater chance of them, the children will have. This is the primary reason why I believe this son was the last child of Izalith, as the Flame Witch Mother gave birth to a son who suffers from continual lava sores. Actually, she may have wanted to birth something of his nature, as it was his sisters who gave him the ring to combat his suffering, not the mother. Either way, this ring was dropped and the centipede demon was created. There are a lot of people who seem to think that the ring itself is the centipede demon, but that doesn't make any sense if you ask me. It says, "But fool that he is, he readily dropped it, and from that spot a terrible centipede demon was born." The ring isn't the source. The dropping of the ring into the lava where the sun could not fetch it caused him to continue his mutation. What mutation? I theorize that this last child was not born before the dragon slaughter. He was born after the bed of chaos was created and Izalith engulfed, and the demons were being created. He was born to be a demon, but was technically the sibling of the daughters, so they took pity and gave him a ring to control the transformation. They would especially take pity because they too were being transformed into horrible creatures. The ring is merely the reward for putting down the sun, and so that we can travel into Izalith per a game mechanic. Anyway, I was supposed to be talking about the last three daughters. Since I have eliminated Ceaseless as the brother, let's move on to the glaring fact that Ceaseless spends its life staring at the remaining corpse of its former self, and the garb it formerly wore. There is an argument that the gold-hemmed robes actually read, "Worn by the witch Quilana of Izalith, founder of Pyromancy and one of the Daughters of Chaos. She wore this gold-hemmed black skirt before even the Age of Fire, and it offers strong resistance versus fire, poison, and other perils." Some see this as somehow proof that the robes belong to Quilana, but come on. She's clearly still alive and still wearing her robes. She's not naked in the swamp. The gold hem set merely has her name in the description in order for the player to have an easily memorable connection to what group the robes belong to, and what they are resistant to: fire. As far as the last two daughters are concerned, there isn't really anything in the game, I admit that, to connect them to the tree pillars that have to be destroyed to access the bedbug. I enjoy calling them that. In various mythologies, including Greek, there are people that are connected to and that take the form of trees. Since the concept of a tree that separates the world is already strong in Dark Souls, and probably borrowed from Greek mythology, I applied this to the last two daughters as well. We know their dear mother desired to transform them all into chaos demons, and also, as far as we know, only Quilana got away. Then where are the last two daughters? I think I've explained myself enough on this, especially since I only have elimination to offer as evidence and not actual proof. As quickly as I can, I want to now explain what happened to the daughters. 5 out of the 7 of them were used by their mother, becoming chaos demons to enhance her power. We know they are chaos demons by Quilag's soul description, once a daughter of the Witch of Izalith, but now a chaos demon. Also going by the description of Quilag's Fury Sword, a curved sword born from the soul of Quilag, daughter of the Witch of Izalith, who was transformed into a chaos demon. The 2 tree women and Ceaseless are good enough without further words. Meanwhile, a 4th daughter is a loyalist who waits to kill those who would dare assault Izalith. Now, I already said that 5 out of the 7 daughters were transformed into demons of some sort. I believe that, at the very least, this daughter waiting outside the bed of chaos went undead and then hollow, or she was at least beefed up with powers so that she had all the pyromancies that were created after her mother was engulfed. Quilag's story is seemingly not all that complicated, but is definitely heartful. When you confront and fight her, she seems evil and deadly, something that should be killed. So you do so and fight her, and then head downstairs, after you kill her, that is, to find her sister. Her poor sister. Quilan was created, transformed, in what appears to be the same manner as Quilag. However, she takes on a sacrifice. Apparently her Covenant member, Engi, was cast from the Great Swamp according to either missed pyromancy. Unique pyromancy crafted by Engi, considered a heretic even at the Great Swamp. Why was Engi driven from the Great Swamp? One need only cast his pyromancy, a perverse diversion from the art of fire, to find out. So he was cast out, and seemingly ended up in Blighttown where he became infected. Engi explains that Quilan swallowed the Blightpuss, an apparent disease, despite that Quilag ordered her not to. screw up her name a lot. It's unclear what this Blight Puss is, and I'm guessing it's what has all those infected in Quilag's domain and the demon ruins frozen still. NG was the same. Quilon thought to save him, and in doing so, returned movement to him, but had herself frozen still and blinded in exchange. Where does that leave Quilag? She protects her sister and attempts to gather humanity for her, hoping to relieve the disease. Quilag is actually a very surmountable character, and it's only a shame that we have to kill her. Lastly, Quilana is upfront about her life and her goals by what she tells the player. I abandoned my mother and sisters and fled to this land. Now I roam these parts, feigning ablution and pretending to seek answers. I have a favor to ask. My mother, the Witch of Izalith, is one of the primeval lords. Her power came from the soul that she found near the first flame. She focused this power to light a flame of her own, but she failed to control it. The flame of chaos engulfed Mother and my sisters, and molded them into deformed creatures. Only I escaped, and now here I am. Pause for a second. That would be another reason why I think the one who attacks you outside of the bed of chaos was actually transformed in some way. Moving on. But my mother and sisters have been in anguish since. I beseech you, free Mother and my sisters from the flame of chaos. I cannot do it myself. I lack the strength and the bravery, but you. I realize what I am asking, but please, free their poor souls. Mother's ambitions were misguided, no doubt, but surely 1,000 years of atonement is enough. During the interim between escaping and entrusting the player with a mission, she creates the guild, or clan as it were, of Pyromancy. The art itself developed from the bed of chaos engulfing Izalith, but Quilana was the one who took it to the Great Swamp and turned it into a line of spells, which ended up being taught through teachers and students. It may have just been a swamp until this happened. Oh, and my proof of all of this is from the upgraded Pyromancy Flame description. Pyromancy Flame drawing upon the latent power of Quilana of Izalith, Mother of Pyromancy. Now, of course, we know, however, that it was Izalith herself being engulfed that actually created Pyromancy from the Demon Catalyst description. I want to add here that Quilana's primary pupil, or at least her most accomplished, was a guy named Solomon. He was not the teacher of Laurentis, the pyromancer we can rescue from the depths. Solomon would have died hundreds of years ago, and according to the Flash Sweat description, Solomon's pupil was someone named Carmina. He was also not Laurentis' teacher, for the power within pyromancy states that it was kept a secret for eons. Well, it's not a secret anymore, because we can learn it, and eons implies a hell of a lot longer than a human lives. Now, we know very little about either of these fellows, and I believe that to be deliberate. What the game is trying to establish is that over the generations pyromancy has been taught, continued on. This is likely by Quilana's efforts to make sure an art that could destroy the bedbug continues to exist. Now the thing is seemingly fire-based after Izalith is absorbed, but it is actually the body of a tree, or its body is actually a tree, so fire should work wonders. Quilana's thought process is not misguided there. The problem would be that the player can't damage the tree at all, so we have to break inside and kill the bug instead. That's going to be it for this time. I know this went on really long. I promise the next one won't be that long. Thank you guys. I love you.